Hi there, welcome once again to the Dukascopy TV studio here in Geneva. I'm Ben Jones. Alongside me again is Dougal Thomson. Dougal, once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi Ben.
So today we are going to be discussing the Scottish vote. We woke up in the early hours of this morning to find out that they've voted no for independence. Can I get your initial reaction to this?
I don't think the no vote as an outcome should surprise anyone. I mean, it's been predicted since the referendum was announced 2 years ago. No has always been ahead in the polls in every single poll, apart from one about 10 days ago. So the final no outcome should come as no real surprise to anybody. They were tracking ahead all of the time. We did see the polls narrow towards the end. A personal point of view, I regret the outcome to the extent that I felt Scotland has all the resources it needs to be a successful and dynamic, small, independent nation, but there you go.
Okay, so as you mentioned, the polls seem to grow more in favour of yes as we got towards the referendum 10 days ago. There was a full yes vote. But if we look back, there wasn't necessarily that much focus on this referendum, say 2 months ago or so. It seemed to really gain momentum. Why do you think that there was so much support for the yes vote? What was some of the justification?
Well, first of all, it was a very long campaign. I mean, it's probably the longest political campaign in recent history, because it lasted 2 years, and it really was only in the last 2 months, let's say, that I sensed that there was a real uptake in interest, and people really started focusing on which way am I going to vote. And the reason I think that the yes vote did well and increased from about 33% 2 years ago up to 1.51% was that people got carried away with the optimistic and positive messages of the yes campaign. I think the yes campaign did very well at creating a message and a campaign based on positivity and aspiration, whereas the no campaign was very much about installing fear and uncertainty, and by emphasising the risk associated with Scotland going. It's always more difficult to galvanise people around a negative message than it is a positive message. So my answer to your question is why did yes improve? Because once the campaigning really got underway, I think the yes campaign found it easier to mobilise people around a positive message than the no campaign did around a fairly negative one.
Okay, now there was some speculation that if Scotland gained the yes vote, that it would impact other areas of Europe that would potentially want independence from their respective countries. Now that it's a no vote, do you think they will still want to gain some momentum themselves?
Well, yeah, obviously the Catalans are not going to decide now, in light of what happened in Scotland yesterday, that they no longer want to push for their own independence. I do think that Mariano Rajoy's government in Madrid will be breathing a sigh of relief at the result, because it does take some of the momentum away from the Catalan bandwagon. I mean, if they'd been able to point to the result in Edinburgh as, here's a people, a nation that have voted for independence, and the UK government has obviously given that its blessing and allowed it to happen, it'd be very difficult for the government in Madrid to then try and put the brakes on the Catalans doing the same thing. I think the Catalans will still push for independence, but it might be that bit more difficult now as a result of what's happened in Scotland. Okay,
now do you think there's going to be another referendum in the future?
Well, there's all sorts of scenarios you can speculate about. I mean, if there is a referendum in the future, it will be some way down the line. I think there's more likely to be a different referendum in the UK in the future, which is possibly going to come as a result of the 2015 general election. It's only 8 months away, the next UK general election, and one very plausible scenario must be that a Conservative UKIP, perhaps, majority are elected on the basis of a promise to have a referendum on opting out of the European Union. And if that happens, I think it will cause problems in Scotland, as everywhere else, because Scots are on the whole pro-EU, and I think it'll be difficult for them to stomach the sight of the UK having to exit the European Union potentially on the basis of majority English votes, whereas Scots themselves would given the choice, vote to stay inside the European Union. If that happens, that could be a catalyst for sort of a further push to reignite the separatist discussion in Scotland.
Okay, so for now, the United Kingdom will remain united. So what does this mean for Scotland? Will they get any more power with this? What can they look as a positive from this?
Well, the Westminster parties left it very late in the day to actually make a commitment of these are the new powers on the table that you will get if you give us your no vote. I mean, they had a front page editorial in the Daily Record, which is Scotland's biggest selling tabloid, a few days before the election, saying, here is our pledge of what we will do for you if you vote no, in terms of further devolved powers. But it's very light on detail. David Cameron has announced that Lord Smith of Kelvin will be in charge of setting up a commission to study a timetable for what powers can be devolved. They'll have to move pretty quickly, given that the next general election, as I say, is in 8 months' time, and also the fact that there'll be an expectation now from the people that voted no on the basis of that vow or pledge that Westminster will deliver. But it's going to be difficult for Westminster to devolve more powers to Scotland, and there's already lots of agitation coming from English Conservative MPs, for example, who do not want further powers to be devolved. People in Wales and Northern Ireland saying, well, hang on, what does this mean for us if Scotland is granted more powers? So it's not going to be easy, and it's going to be, I think, a difficult process over the next few months for Westminster to try and formulate powers, more devolved powers for Scotland that will be acceptable to the whole United Kingdom.
Okay, Dougal, once again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Ben.
And thank you for watching. Do make sure you keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV, as we'll be bringing you plenty more updates and exclusive interviews. Bye for now.